Ladies and gentlemen, button pushers and wrench turners, welcome to another episode of Something's Broken. My name's Tayler Goodyear, and I own TG CNC Service out of Wisconsin. This week was pretty busy for myself and my contractor. It was a really good week. So, started the week off. I had a ball screw replacement to do on a hard-hinge super precision lathe. I don't know what year it's from, but it's one of the older ones. So I showed up, got the old ball screw out. The customer had the new ball screw there, which took like 6 months to get. Shouldn't have took that long, but some of you might know Hard Inch was bought by Kellenberger, and there was a whole transition period there. So uh, it was understandable. Like it is what it is. But the ball screw that came in, the new one, I opened up the box and I went to go grab the ball nut because I always check the ball nuts because you never know. It's just a habit of mine. And I checked the ball nut and it had what my friend in Michigan, Joe Powell, shout out to Joe at Roberts Ball Screw in Michigan. I got a hold of him and I sent him a video of this ball nut and I was like, hey man, this doesn't seem normal to me. And what was going on when you grab the ball nut, you had like just there should be no back and forth play on that ball nut when it's preloaded. Like it should be pretty hard to turn one way or the other. But on this ball screw, I had just a little bit back and forth play on it that had no preload to it. And I'm like, that's not normal. I've done a lot of ball screws in my life, and I've never seen the ball nut have that. And I hit up Joe, and I was like, Joe, what the fuck is going on with this ball screw, man? I was like, this is a brand new ball screw that we ordered from the OEM, and I've never seen this before. And he explained it to me, and I guess it's called dead bend. And he said he's seen worse before. So he kind of gave me some confidence behind me telling the customer I'm not putting this ball screw in the machine, man. I'm sorry. Like this is not normal. I've never seen this before, and I'm hitting up several of my service buddies asking them if they've ever seen this before. They said no, never seen that. I've hit up some service company owners and I was like, have you ever seen this before? They're like, no. We've never seen that before. So I was like, okay, I'm leaning towards I'm not putting this fucking ball screw in this machine. I'm not. So I went back to the customer. I was like, listen, man, I hit up Joe. Joe's the man. Joe's the pro, basically, when it comes to ball screws. And I hit up a bunch of my service buddies, and everybody agrees this is not normal. And um, I was like, go ahead and get a hold of the OEM, tell them what we're seeing. They asked for a video. We sent them a video, and they kind of agreed at first that it was a problem and not normal. Then they came back and said, oh, it's okay. Just go ahead and put it in the machine. Told my customer I'm not putting that ball screw in the fucking machine. I don't care what they say. You tell them that you want to return it and you want a new ball screw. And if we get another ball screw in and it's the same thing, just tell them just fucking forget about it. Then I'm going to go to Joe at Robert's Ball Screw and get one made. Or we're going to send the one that I take out and we're going to send it to Joe and he can repair it or determine whether another one needs to be made. So customer went back and forth with the OEM. The last thing I heard, they came to an agreement of swapping out the ball screws. So it's just kind of like a waiting period right now. But the bearing ends are all built. They're all ready to be slapped in and dialed in, run out. The stretch to be applied and whatnot. So it's ready. We just need the ball screw. So that's kind of a pause right now until we hear otherwise. So then I was back to my top customer. They had a Yamaseki lathe that was intermittently throwing a turret unclamp alarm on a Yamaseki lathe. And they said it was kind of weird because they could home out the machine and it would be just fine. They could sit there and index and yada yada yada. It wouldn't have any problem. I was like, okay, so to me it sounds like if you're in a certain position in the X or the Z and it bombs out, but when you move it back to home position, that sounds like a cable shorting to me. So it was the clamp switch cable that ran back to the junction box from the turret. If the x-axis got too low, it put tension on the cable and it caused the short to happen basically. So they had another one in house, so I just I swapped them out. I tested it first, make sure it was the right switch. Normally open or normally close, PMP, MPN, proc switch, and it was the same exact switch. So easy peasy. Put that in, reran everything to where I tried to put it to where that wouldn't happen again, so there wasn't like so much tension on it, regardless of where the x-axis was. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. So they had a Yamaseki mill, a pretty big mill, vertical mill, that had a blown airline on it, and they couldn't find where it was at. So I dug into the machine and I found where it was at. It was just by the spindle. Just an old airline blew, just basically dry ride and gateway and fucking blew a hole in it. So I cut the bad part out and unioned in another airline. Easy peasy. That was done. So subcontractor, contractor Cam, he had two jobs himself. The first job was at a customer installing some mist collectors on two different machines. That took him pretty much all day to do all that. Customer was happy. So it sounds like they have more. We just don't know when they're gonna want them put in. So it sounds like they might have us come in and install even more. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they like this or if they get more, and then ask me if I can send Cam in there to do it. And yeah, so we'll see. And then his second job, and this one has been kind of fucking me up a little bit, but it happens. So I rebuilt a Hyundai wheel lathe. I did some investigating on this machine because the customer said it was pissing hydraulic oil and they couldn't find it. I was like, well, more than likely it's in the turret. So I took the back cover off of the turret and the cavity was filled with hydraulic oil. So I was like, okay, it's definitely the turret. I was pretty confident. And then when I rebuilt the turret, I found a lot of hydraulic oil in the bottom portion of the cavity as well, like the actual turret housing cavity. I was like, okay, so I was even more confident that it was the turret. It wasn't just the turret. It was more than just the turret. The customer got a hold of me after I rebuilt the turret and was like, dude, I am still putting like a gallon of oil in this thing with each shift. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, yeah, okay, so we still have a major leak somewhere on that machine. I'm going to send my contractor in. And I told Cam, I was like, rip that entire fucking machine apart. You take every goddamn cover off. I want you to check the clamping actuator for the spindle. Take the covers off of the turret again. I want you to run a MDI program and index that turret. Tell me if the cavity fills up again. I want you to rip this motherfucker apart and find out where that leak is. So he did the turret indexing, didn't get a drop out of the turret. I was like, okay, that's good. That's good. Then we know it's not the turret. He checked the actuator, and usually when clamping actuators on lathe spindles go bad, you can see the hydraulic oil pissing out of the drain tube. No oil out of the drain tube. I was like, okay, then there's only one other fucking place. That's the tailstock. But the customer says they don't use the tailstock, so it never moves. It's like, okay. Cam calls me. He's like, dude, I found the leak. I was like, really? Where? He's like, it's in the tailstock. I was like, okay. Tear some of the covers off. See if you can see physically where it's coming out of. He could only get so far into the tailstock before you had no choice but to tear the entire tailstock apart, and the customer didn't want to do that. They were like, listen, we'll just plug it for now, and then when you get time and think you can rebuild it and we want to put it on the schedule, we'll just have you come in and fucking rebuild it. I was like, okay, that's fine by me. uh, but I'm glad that we contractor can found the fucking found the leak, because that one fucked me up, man. Like, yeah, you do a repair and you think it's that. Not saying it wasn't that, because I had evidence that it was leaking in the turret, so I felt pretty confident about that. And just my experience in the past of hydraulic leaks on lathe machines, 9 times out of 10, it's in the turret. That's the most moving hydraulic component there is on lathe machines, other than the actuator. And then maybe it's the tailstock, but the tailstock still doesn't see half of the movement that the turret does, right? So I was pretty confident on that, but it's very rarely, I think, that you'll get more than one leak location on a machine. I just don't think leaks just happen all over the place on a machine, at least not with my experience. 9 times out of 10, it's just one location on the machine, and that's what's leaking the most. But in this case, we had 2 different locations that were leaking hydraulic fluid, and one location was significantly more than the other. So, is what it is. Sounds like the customer's okay. Um, I don't know if they're gonna hire me to rebuild it. I don't know. It's it is what it is. Sometimes that can leave a bad taste in the customer's mouth when you do some work on something and it's still broken, or it still has an issue. Yeah, it is what it is. But we'll see. We'll see in the future. Um, so I had a meeting 2 weeks ago with a distributor in Wisconsin, and we had a very good meeting. Um, Basically, we were trying to figure out how we could work together, like how we could scratch each other's backs. Um, Obviously, me on the service side, fixing machines, installing machines, supporting their customers on the service end, and then me having leads with customers in Wisconsin with my customers, looking for machines to buy. So um, that meeting was 2 weeks ago, and they ended up getting a hold of me for a job. Now, at first, I was booked, and I didn't really know if I was going to have the time to get into their customer. Well, repairs went better than expected throughout the week, so I hit them up and I was like, hey, I can get into your customer Thursday, let me know. And they got back to me right away and was like, yeah, if you could get in there, please. The machine is a big YCM bridge mill. Pretty cool machine. It was great. Honestly, the control was pretty dope. I thought it was pretty straightforward on the controller, nothing like too crazy or anything like that. This was the first YCM machine I've ever worked on or even seen in the field, so I didn't really know anything about them. A very very cool machine, pretty stout. Linear guide rails, which whatever. I mean, I figured most bridge mills in the medium price range um, are linear guide rails. But the issue on the machine was a pulse generator alarm on the Z-axis on the external encoder, which all 3 axis, X, Y, and Z, all had linear scales, Heidenhain linear scales. So I have a buddy that used to work for Heidenhain. A lot of people in the industry know him. I won't say his name just for privacy reasons. But I hit him up. I was like, hey, man, listen, I just want to run some questions by you. Do you think that this scale I can take apart in the field and clean it? I've never done that before. Usually you just replace the fucking things outright and that's it. And he's like, yeah, you can disassemble it and clean it in the field. I was like, okay, this makes me nervous because linear scales are, they're optical glass readers. So, there's some things that can go wrong if you're not careful. So he kind of explained it to me how to do it and whatnot. So I went to the customer, pulled the scale off. At first, I checked parallelism of the scale first, because that was my biggest question. First was like, okay, brand new machine, 4 months old. Excuse me, just came from the factory. Not saying that there's anything wrong, but it needs to be checked. That should be the first thing that's checked, is parallelism of the scale to the z-axis stroke or whatever axis it's on. And that was great. It was like 10 microns, something like that. Fuck, tighter than that. I think it was 8 microns over the entire length. So that nothing wrong there. But I did notice a lot of oil buildup on the scale. And when I first showed up, the customer was running a spindle warm up cycle, and I just happened to look up and I noticed a lot of oil vapor was coming out of the top of the spindle as it's running. Now, that's not really too concerning. There are some spindles that have an air over oil lubrication system. So the oil vapor that you see come out is normal. It's just oil vapor from the spindle just generating so much inertia, and it's just, basically evaporating the oil, and then the mist is coming out of the back vent or whatever, which is not really too concerning. But what I did notice is that oil vapor was coming out right next to the scale. And for some reason, this scale didn't have an air purge on it, which all of it was a gravity axis, obviously, and it was pretty open, which I understand. And I hit up my Heidenheim rep, and I was like, "Hey man, is this normal?" It's like, "Yeah, some OEMs don't put air purges on exposed scales because they're open to the elements and airflow and whatnot, so it's not that big of a concern." I was like, "Okay," but the oil vapor coming out of the spindle housing up top and then basically coming out right next to the scale, I was like, that's not good. That's not good. So I get the scale down, and the outside has oil on it. And I was like, that's not good. Because they do put a cover plate over it for the most part. It's like a half cut out cover plate over it. But it's oil vapor, man. It'll find its way to the scale some way, somehow. So that was my biggest concern. I was like, okay, well, if there's oil on the scale, even with the cover, there's probably oil in the scale. So I took it off, took it completely apart, went and got denatured alcohol and lint-free rags, and I fully disassembled it, and I cleaned the opticals. I cleaned the glass strip inside, the glass tape. Um, really well. I cleaned inside. I did find oil inside of the linear scale housing. So that was kind of my hint that I think I know what's happening or what did happen. I think we just had an oily reader, and that oil vapor just got on the glass or on the optical reader and was just throwing it off, getting a misread. Um, so I cleaned it up as best as possible, got all the oil out, put the seals back on, put the end caps back on, put the reader head back in before putting the caps on, gave it one more last wipe down clean, and then installed it back on the machine and indicated it within 5 microns of parallelism across the entire stroke, and then torqued everything down accordingly. Set the gap on the reader head to thou. That's what I was recommended to do. So um, after that, I left it all kind of exposed. I didn't put any of the covers on, and the customer and I wrote, or the customer basically, but I told the customer what I was kind of looking for. I just wanted the column to just move up and down in rapid. Send it to tool change. I don't care. Just write a program for it to loop that, because I just want to see this thing rapid, up and down, up and down, up and down. So they wrote a program, and we ran this program for 8 hours, something like that, and the machine never alarmed out. Now, they told me that when the machine was alarming out, it was so intermittent that it could have ran for a week and never alarmed out. And then some instances it would you couldn't even run it once and it would just constantly bomb out. I was like, okay, well, this is just going to be kind of like a play it by ear thing on it because there's really nothing else I can do. I can't fix a problem that's not there. So um, we ran the the MDI program and looped it, and didn't skip a beat, did great. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give the machine back to you, man. Like, just go ahead and do whatever you guys want to do on the machine, and just play it by ear. Let the distributor know if you have any issues. But I was pretty confident about what I found and my efforts into fixing the problem. Now I did let the distributor know that I think it's a very good idea to put an air purge on that, just because of the oil vapor that's coming out of the top and it being right next to the scale. And even with the scale being covered and it still had oil on the housing and in the housing, yeah, definitely should probably put an air purge on it, which is not hard. It's just some fittings, some airlines. My Heidenhain rep told me it's zero point 0.6 to 1.0 bar of air pressure, um, to for the air purge on those. So, excuse me. Yeah. So we're gonna play that one by ear, but I was kind of shocked. I didn't think the distributor was gonna throw any work towards me. I thought most of it was just smoke blowing. But yeah, it was pretty cool that they hit me up, and I was able to try to help them at least. They're swamped as far as like service goes and installations and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really cool to be able to work with them and help them out. At least I hope I was able to help. I guess time will tell. So next week we have a NH6300 deinstallation going on. This machine is being deinstalled by us and then being reinstalled at a different location. I don't know who's doing the installation. It might be us. It might be the OEM. I don't know. Don't really care. Um, if they want it to be us, it can be us. But the OEM has to come unlock the machine, and then they might just be like, "Oh, we can fucking do it." So, whatever. I mean, we got the deinstall. It'll probably take about 3-4 days to deinstall the machine, and then we'll be there with the riggers to get rigged out and make sure that everything goes smooth and whatnot. So my contractor and I, we're going in there to prep it and get it ready to go. And I think Thursday is when the riggers are going to be there. So we got 3 days basically to pack this big ass mill up, which I don't think it'll be a problem. So, all right, motivation time. Depression. Now, everybody I think has some way somehow experienced some type of depression in their life, and God knows I have for sure. Um, and there's sometimes you can't prevent it. You know, sometimes it's just shit that is happening to you that you can't control, and it's out of your control, and as a result you get depressed. One of the things, two things that I found to help me in those situations is, one, I focus on my fitness. I focus on my health. I go to the gym. The gym is one of the few things that you can do and you'll get an equal return on. And I think that's very important, because there's not a lot of things in life that you can put your effort into and you'll get a result from it, or a return on it, or an equal return on it. And there's tons of studies behind working out and what it does to the brain and your hormones, and it's nature's antidepressant, in my opinion. And the other one is friendships. Reaching out to friends and being straightforward with them about how you feel. And you got to be careful with this, though, because some friends, at least you think are friends, you tell them how you really feel and how life is going. Some of them might not care the way that you need them to, and I think some people might reach out to the wrong people about that, and they don't get the answer that they're looking for. They don't expect, not expect, they don't get the help, I guess, that they're expecting or they're crying out for in a way. I was, I've been fortunate to have a few good solid friends in my life that when I hit rock bottom and I was in my worst depression stage, I was able to hit them up, man, and they picked up the phone right away, or they hung out with me, or they were there for me. They were there when I needed them, and I was vulnerable, super vulnerable, and it's not bad to be vulnerable. I see vulnerable as a two-way street of a weakness and a strength. And I think it's the situation that determines whether it's one or the other. Um, but you don't have to go through life and be scared of being vulnerable. And when you hit depression, I think trying to figure out who to be vulnerable to or who you let see you in a vulnerable state it's crucial. It's crucial. But that doesn't mean you have to be afraid of losing friends or losing friendships or relationships, because that just shows you those people, how those people really view you as a friend. Um, Two things: get your fucking ass in the gym, go walk, go run until you can't run anymore. And when you hit that runner's high, because that is a thing, 100% a thing, you're running so hard and it just hits you and you get that fucking dopamine rush, man. I mean, it's 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 curing. Like it's a life-saving thing to do. But you have to work in order to feel it, and that's the return of your investment on your personal health. Get out there, work out, work on your health, man, nutrition, and find some fucking good friends, man. It's just good people. You don't, I would choose quality over quantity any day, man, any day. And I've been fortunate to meet people throughout this entire country traveling. Um, the two of my really good friends live in Texas, and I would have never met them if I wasn't traveling. Um, and I got a really good buddy out in Seattle. I would have never met him if I wasn't traveling or if I didn't work for my previous OEM. Just you hit depression. Don't ever think that it's the end, man, because it's not, and you will find a way out. I just gave you two fucking ways to get out. Take those choices and get the fuck out. And you will. Well, that's it, guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. My name's Tayler Goodyear, and I own TG CNC Service out of Wisconsin. I will see you guys next week. We'll see you guys.